everybody. Guess what? I managed to pull an episode 3 out of them while I had them out here in the country. I've got Thomas. Samantha's husband is on the air with us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hey, way down there. Thomas is an Enneagram 4, since that's the center of this conversation. We're going to start right in there. And first, let me ask you, do you remember when you found what the Enneagram was all about? Was it about the same time as her?
Same time as Sam, pretty close. Yeah, and skeptic at first, and then I read a little bit and said, oh my gosh, how does it know everything about me? The deepest, darkest secrets. So yeah, it's been a great tool, especially in our marriage. It can be a weapon at times, but we choose to edify with it at most times. Yeah.
So do you feel like it has been a compliment to your marriage?
Absolutely. Yes. I tell people all the time, it's one of the best tools we found out there for communication on my part, especially as a 4 and being an individualist per se. I keep a lot of things in. So I was just telling Doug about this, that I found it great for me to feel and see the other perspectives of other numbers and realize that I need to communicate better. So it's been a great tool for communication, especially.
And in your work environment, you work with a number of people?
Oh, yes.
Is it like a team thing, or?
Yeah, quite a few people around me, all in their 20s. So I'm the old dad. And
he's
so
like,
I'm giving sagely advice all the time. But yeah, a lot of times people think that I'm a 7 when they first meet me, because I tend to put on a little like JoJo the Circus Clown act.
What are you saying, Thomas?
I'm a clown.
That's how you see, or is that how you see 7s?
No. Yeah, okay, a little
Interesting.
clownish. No. But they see that in me. I'm just kind of upbeat, and then I tend to have this good, or maybe bad, trait that as soon as I meet someone, I kind of go straight in for the deepest, darkest question. I go very intense. I ask questions that cut. So what are you doing with your life? Like, we just met, and I go pretty deep in. So that's what I do.
Tell me about your childhood. Somehow, the funny thing is, though, like, because I see this all of the time. So I'm real good at like small talk, and the more people, the better. Like, just bounce around. And Tommy will always like find one person and then just like start up a conversation, find them deeply interesting. And he feels like everybody has a story and they just need somebody to tell it to. And so he just asks these questions and like can be very direct, not in an aggressive way, but in a way where people want to just tell him and their life story. I mean, this has happened at like Atlanta Braves baseball games. I turn around and he's in a deep conversation with a stranger.
I'm rando.
I'm not even exaggerating. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's just like a gift that he has.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do the thing that I absolutely hate. And that is, people assume 7s are shallow. And so in my former more shallow days, I would be the opposite. It's so embarrassing to say it, where you just said, and she affirmed, that you have a way of asking somebody and assuming they have a story and pulling out the questions and letting them tell you who they are. I have always had this horrible fear of silence. And so if there's any silence in the crowd, I've always been like, let me tell you my story. Yeah. You're going to love it. So interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about me. And I've talked about this recently, learning more about myself through the Enneagram. I tend to love to draw out people's stories and try to kind of hide mine away a lot. I don't know if that's upbringing or insecurities or just something about my number, but I love to help people find the very best in themselves or hear what motivates them or what drives them. I kind of opposite on. Oh, I don't know if it's a gift. It might be more fear-driven that I don't want to share about myself.
No, it is. And I think it is a gift, but we recently just discussed this, that I think it's like with any type, you have strengths and gifts and things that make you uniquely you, but there's always like another side to that coin. And so it's just kind of, for lack of a better phrase, finding the balance of, he is so gifted at that. And he's a great exhorter. So he can exhort people. So encourage them, but not flatter them. Like, he can tell them hard things that maybe they don't really want to hear, but they respect it and it helps them. But I think if he's not careful, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if he's not careful, he can focus on doing that so much for other people that he neglects to do it to himself.
Absolutely. Yes.
So, I mean, would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, having just discovered this, I mean, you obviously knew when you started dating each other, and especially after you're married, that there are differences. So the Enneagram did not reveal to you that you were different.
Oh, yeah.
Had different perspectives.
Yeah.
But we're not going to go fully back into Sammy's story because we've spent 2 episodes letting her having pulled it out of her. She says she's willing to share, but I know that takes a lot out of you. So from a 4 perspective, once you became aware of this, how do you feel like looking back? Even though you didn't know what the Enneagram was, you knew you coped with life in a different way. How do you feel like you helped her through this story that was a part of her? And how do you feel like, and we'll get to that second, but first I want to hear from Thomas, how do you feel like you were able to address those issues once you became aware of your differences in this light and through the Enneagram lens, and then vice versa, how you with him? So tell us.
Not knowing the depth of what she was going through, met her in high school, and I was just drawn to her because of her joy and charisma and humor. Like, we hit it off right away because we made each other laugh, and I was just drawn to her. And not only that, once you get to know past her joy, humor, her beauty, she also, like you were saying, 7s are very deep as well, great thinkers, and she had this depth to her that she only showed the party girl, the fun,
right,
the circus clown. But once you got to sit with her, like, this girl was deep.
Clown.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's just me.
No, hey, you're free to be.
No,
she had this incredible
We've got Doug
depth.
here.
Okay.
He's a 9. He'll come mediate if we
Okay. All right, no fights.
No.
Okay.
Incredible depth as well. And then I got to hear a little bit about her story, and I hope what I brought to her was stability, loyalty, never hurt her like she was hurt before. So I tried to bring to her stability and comfort, and it took a while for her to earn trust and not think that I was going to, treat her the way that she was treated before or hurt the way. So there's a lot of vetting process and trust and hurt. And sometimes I did, hurt that even through being married so young and growing up together essentially. But I just stuck with it and told her I would always be there, loyal to her, and tried to walk through every situation with her at her pace, at her time, and be a good listener through all that as well.
Oh, well, obviously that's one of your gifts. Do you think, and Sammy, maybe this is a question you would have to answer, but as we know, 7s have this ability to suppress the painful feelings.
Right.
Do you think, because of his ability as a 4 to not live in fear of the painful feelings, but as I've been told by other 4s, fully embrace the depth and the height? You can go to the high side and find all the joy and the fun and everything, but you're not afraid to go to the bottom.
Right.
Do you feel like you were able to help bring that out? As I call it, for me personally, it's been a missing piece. So to be able to talk to other 4s and be able to go, I am angry, I am sad, and actually be able to experience that emotion. Do you feel like you brought some of that up out of her?
I think so. I think she would tread lightly, throw out some of her story, and see how I would react. I don't know, trying to push me away to see if I would stay, or trying to just see if it was the real deal early on in our relationship. And I could sit with it and at her time frame hear it and sit in it with her, essentially. And then at her pace, when she was ready to reveal more or go through bouts of anger or frustration or sorrow or whatever she was on the scale of dealing with this, just be with her through all of it. No judgment, no shame, just walk through her with all of it. So it's not easy, but it's kind of natural for me to do that.
Yeah. I would say if you don't have a healthy 4 in your life, go out and find you one. Because especially to my fellow 7s out there, because percentage wise, 7 is my highest, 4 is my lowest. So, I mean, when they talk about opposites attract, we couldn't be more opposite in so many ways. Yeah. I mean, we do have a lot of, some of the aspects of our personalities are very similar, but we have a lot of differences. And you mentioned Brene Brown earlier, like, you know, the patron saint of vulnerability, whom we loved. Yes. But she talks about vulnerability, and I'm someone who's always been drawn to vulnerability. And I don't know if that kind of goes back to the empathy piece we talked about earlier, but I love vulnerability, but it's scary when you're the one that has to be vulnerable. And so having him in my life, and I kind of had the freedom to be vulnerable and know that it's not going to be mistreated or taken advantage of or judged. One thing about 4s is they are so non-judgmental. You've never met a more non-judgmental person. Like you can tell him anything and he will be there in it with you and not judge you. And I don't know. There's like such a mystery with 4s.
Oh, I know.
Like
I know.
You know?
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted.
His head is swelling as he's like,
I know.
he's like, and I can sign off now. But yeah, no, he just has this gift and this ability to, whatever the emotion is, high, low, anywhere in between, to just be present in that. And he's not afraid of it. And I think 4s kind of, there's this misconception that they're these dark and brooding and terribly miserable, unhappy people. That could not be further from the truth. He is so full of joy.
I know. That's why when you told me you were a 4, when we were out around the fire pit, everybody was sitting around the fire pit about a couple years ago or whatever, and you said that, and I was like, no. Almost like, oh, please, no.
Yeah. Like, no, I liked you so much.
Come over to the bright side. Yeah. But, so, okay. What about when he has a darker moment? The words are not easy for me to, because they're not my words. So I don't want to put words out there. They're like, well, it's not a dark moment for me.
Yeah.
It's a moment that requires a depth of, sorrow or feeling. That's what it requires, is a depth of feeling.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask Thomas this. Yeah. How do you feel when you have that in your heart, knowing that your wife is a 7? Do you feel like this is going to be something that's viewed as, oh no, I can't let her in to this spot because she needs the upbeat, which you don't all the time, but that's the misconception. Yeah. Do you feel safe to have that experience with her?
Absolutely feel safe. I would say through my maturity, those darker moments are much less frequent. But when I think I would be at a place where, only knowing the way I think, I would try to go to this place and expect her to be there with me, and she had no way to even conceive why I was at the place or how I got there or why, what is going on is essentially how she deal with it. Sure. And then I'd be like, oh, you don't know, the world is so bad. I'd fall off a cliff sometimes, and she'd be like, okay, I'm going to go cook a pizza, have fun. No, but
I'm going to go find something yellow.
No, yes, yellow.
That's a joke that came in. You said earlier, everything isn't always yellow. And I thought, well, yeah, it is. Sure it is.
But then through learning each other, and she would actually try to go to these places with me. And it was a lot of times I didn't really want anyone there with me, but I would just wallow that she would know I was not in a good place. And it wasn't healthy at all. But she has helped me immensely. Just dig and pull the questions out of me. Why are you feeling like this? What got you here? And I'd like, I don't know. It would take her hours to dig it out. Okay, tell me when you're ready. And she would ask again and prod me. And that has matured me so much in the way I communicate, the way I live, the way I am, because she would ask the hard questions for me. Because she could see me that I wasn't happy or in a good spot, and she wanted me healthy. And those questions have made me look farther into myself and see, why am I feeling like this? Why am I going down this path? I'm not happy being here. And huge help with having a partner that is hopeful and wants to see me joyful. So it's helped me immensely.
And I would just say on the flip side of that, he's done the same for me in the sense that I've had a lot of like sorrow over the years. And so I can get in a place where I'm like, no, I've had enough of that. Like, I'm good. Like, let's just sail off into the sunset, like no more. But life is full of ups and downs. No matter what your type is, you're going to experience stress and grief and all sorts of emotions. And that's okay. Like, so he's helped me kind of slow down a little bit when he knows, like, no, I know you're sad. Like, it's okay. Like that situation sucked, or that's hard. I see it. Like, how does that make you feel right now? And I'm like, it's fine. Like, it's not a big, and he's like, no. Like, don't think about anyone else that may have had it worse, or, just look at you. Like, don't deflect, don't deny, just, let's just sit here and we'll be here as long as we need to be until it passes. But just making sure that when it passes, it's because it's time and it's been resolved, and it's not just, I want it to pass by because I don't want to deal with it. So I think we've really complemented each other in that way. And again, when we were young, I mean, we got married so young, and we were two just kids from totally opposite worlds, like Leave It to Beaver. And then
okay.
I mean that in a great way.
Yes.
Like just a very wonderful family. And then, me, and it was just like,
and then me.
And then me.
And then our personalities are different. Our coping mechanisms are different. Our communication style. I mean, just everything is different. So the Enneagram, which we didn't discover until probably our 15th year of marriage, has been such an amazing tool for us. And it's given us language and just like, that's it. Like, reading something or diving in and being like, oh my gosh, it makes so much sense now. Like, this is how I've always been, but this is why. So now I don't look at him if he's just having a melancholy day, like who says that melancholy is bad? Like, have a melancholy day. Like, I don't need to fix that. I don't need to worry about that something's broken in him, and I've got to make him happy again,
That's why I had to go back and redefine the word. It's not whatever I used as it sounded negative. No, I think I said a dark place or something like that. No, melancholy is not. We've just decided that these are, and you and I are the queens of deciding those are the good things and these are the not good things. And that's what I love about hearing about your story, watching you two together, is this must be such a strong combination where, like you said, it on the outside, these are such opposites. On the other hand, sometimes I hear that people misidentify between 4 and 7. And I think, well, how can that be? And so you're a great example of that, are the two of you, your story together. Okay, so in the time that we have left, I want to ask you, how do you feel that the Enneagram, I know it's not the be-all, end-all, but now that and what we always end up saying is we don't type our children. Right. Sure we do.
Sure.
We all
got
do.
them all down.
Yeah.
Got a list here.
Do you think, whether you've actually typed them or not, you are aware of certain characteristics one has and not the other? Do you feel like this has been a blessing, for lack of a better word? That's
Absolutely.
a great word. Yeah. In your parenting?
For sure.
Yeah. 100%.
And they looked at each other. They were nodding yes.
Again, as Sam said, the communication, the language, that's helped so much. We have an oldest son who, not typing him, but he's a 7. So he's so much. He's so much like Sam, and
he's just like his mama.
It's beautiful. But for me, we have some conflicts and challenges, and I love him so much and so proud of him. But learning how some of the same conflicts I would see with Sam, whether being distracted or sometimes not much disorganized. I see in him, and it lets me take a step back and realize, this is how he works and operates. This is his universe, his perception of the world. This is the lane he is in, and it lets me have more compassion to communicate with more patience and empathy. And not everyone has to do it my way. That's why I was drawn to her, because she didn't do it my way. I don't want someone like me. I was drawn to her like that. And so it's helped communication with our children immensely.
Yeah. And I think probably before we were familiar with the Enneagram, it was just like, oh, well, he's like me, and, she's like you. And, oh, I wonder what these other ones are going to be like, who are, and now we know they have their own unique personalities,
right.
and again, they haven't taken any of the Enneagram tests or anything. They're very interested, the older ones. And our daughter's listened to a couple of podcasts, Enneagram podcasts, and she thinks she knows. She thinks she's an 8, which I have said she's an 8. But it's just, but it has it just in the way we communicate, and just that understanding, like, our goal as parents is not to duplicate ourselves.
Heavens.
I think
applause for you guys. One of the worst phrases I think that ever came along is, "Oh, she's just a mini me."
Yeah.
No.
I'm not trying to recreate myself, like a better version of myself and my child.
A do-over.
Right. Yeah. We understand that they are divinely and uniquely created, and we just want to help shape and guide them to be the best version of themselves that they can be. And I do think the Enneagram has been so helpful for us in that kind of being our core motivation in parenting.
Oh, I love hearing that. I love seeing that the stigma around the Enneagram is dropping. Nobody seemed to have any problem with a Myers-Briggs. I mean, of course, we didn't really talk about our children.
We didn't have a pentagram around that.
I know, and that is like, if it didn't have such a weird name, a pentagram. Oh yes, I've
Satan?
Yeah.
Oh yes, there's. It's fun to Google what those people say about it.
Well, I think that it kind of had this resurgence, and it's like, oh, it's like this fad, and there are, with anything, like bandwagon people, and that's fine. Like, delve into it as much or as little as you want to, but I think at the end of the day, it really is a helpful tool, and I think there's a lot of wisdom in and around it, and but on the flip side, it can be weaponized. It can be used for harm instead of good.
Course.
And so, you just have to approach it with openness and some wisdom and maturity.
And like I've said before, you don't have to make this, your other job or your life's hobby, work, or whatever it is. You can take as much or as little as you want,
right?
Or none. People understand there are different types in the world without the Enneagram,
right?
But it's what you've said. What I believe is we get to put language, and I think with it being actually it's taught in Fortune 500s, 500s. In the universities, it's now being introduced in schools to be able to, not to type children, but to be aware of they speak a different language.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, you have 5 children.
Yeah.
That's a lot of languages going on, and 2 parents who have different languages. So it's the Rosetta Stone work. It's being able to decipher, what does the action mean without the words? And this is what I believe. If you'll just take a small amount of time just to learn the very basics, it will open up a world to you that you can begin to notice people do not think alike. It's not just men and women.
Right.
Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Yes, that was a good step forward. But learning to, like you have the gift of doing, listening to other people.
What'd you say? I wasn't listening. No, I got you. Yes.
Oh, somebody else also wanted to be a stand-up comedian.
Did you?
I don't know. Maybe a little bit. Maybe.
Me too.
Whoa, see?
I did. Except I was told I wasn't funny.
I think you're funny.
You think I'm funny?
Yes.
I have some great jokes. I'm gonna throw my daughter under the bus here because I don't think she listens anyways. But
You are funny.
so I can get away with a lot of things. But let me just say, I believe she's a 1.
Mm-hmm.
She's just a gift to me because in my 7ness, who wants to start this project and start this business and do this thing?
Yes.
She has been like, Mom, let's think about how this will play. Let's get a little organization, think it through. What are all the steps you might do?
Yeah.
But she's very disciplined and organized and, just such a wonderful girl. So for her to tell a joke, it's just not her.
Brutal. Yeah.
So she came up to me the other day and said, I heard this joke. And I just kind of looked because it's just not, she's funny and fun.
Yeah.
But jokes are not her thing. And she doesn't even she's told me I don't like stand-up comedians. It's just a waste of time. But she said she had this joke. I said, okay, what is it? And she goes, what did I'm the worst at telling jokes. Okay. What did the sexy brown cow say to the sexy brown chicken?
What?
Brown chicken, brown cow. Brown chicken.
Yeah, you should take that on tour.
Yeah. You're going on the road.
Thank you very much and good night. So, yes, knowing my own children, my grown children, I think I know their numbers.
Yeah.
But the conversations, and I will tell you this, as they get older and out of your house and begin doing life on their own, my God.
Sorry, was that out loud?
When?
Yeah.
Oh, knowing this early on will save you so much heartache. If I'd known earlier.
Yeah.
The things I would not have said.
Yeah.
But, okay.
That's helpful.
Do you have a wrap-up thought you'd like to share with the world?
Wrap up thought. Do we say, hey, my name's Tommy and I love my number? Is that good for the podcast?
That makes me so happy.
I actually do. 4s get a bad rap. Like, people like, oh, like you at the fire pit, apparently. Oh, he's a 4. No, that's sad. We're never going to have him over again. Okay, that's hurtful. But moving on, I actually do like being a 4 because we think we're special. We think there's no other 4s in the room ever.
You are
but
special.
I do enjoy it. And this has given me, help me understand myself so much better and value myself even more. Because when those dark times, I think, why am I like this? Why am I different or whatever? So I have found it's helped me mature and be a better parent, hopefully husband, friend, listener, all these things. So
I love that. I love that you said it out loud, that you love your number. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Sammy?
Oh yeah, no, I definitely love my number. I don't know. Do you ever have that? Like, have you ever been posed with that question? Like, okay, if you weren't the number you are, what number would you want to be? And I'm like, why would I ever want to change?
Oh, I feel so.
Okay, I figured you could relate, but no. But yeah, I do love my number. I mean, I am not my number. But
No, we're not our numbers.
Right.
but I know you all know that, and I'm assuming the listeners do as well. But I do. I love who I am.
I love that. I love you guys. I'm
Thank you so
so
much.
Thank you so much.
happy our paths crossed.
Likewise.
Oh, and so we'll wrap this one up. Thank you, Sammy and Thomas Horton.
Thank you.
And for all of you listening, one more time, I hope you get to know the joy of who you are by loving your own number. See you next week.